Hi, it's Melanie here. We're going to tackle Lesson 20, Banishing Your Cash Flow Woes. Now, as we go through this, the intention here is to help get you prepared to address the cash flow woes you may be in, but also to look at ways to set yourself up so that you don't get in those situations where you have a cash flow issue. So let's start with some basic understanding of where cash influxes can come from. What are the basic ways to increase our cash inflow? One of the basic ones is sell more. Now, I think we all know this, and we all realize that new leads are probably the most fashionable, the most, what most people think of when they're going to sell more, but it's actually the most expensive. What I want you to start looking at is how might you be able to sell more to people who have already said yes to you. They already like what you do. They're already a raving fan. This is actually the least effort and the most, this is the place that makes the most sense to look at selling more. Because you may have a client that has bought a product, but they don't necessarily have all the pieces of the puzzle that they need help with. Think about what their challenges are, what the issues are, what you have that might complement what they're already doing, and invite them to take another step with you. Now, you can do this from the point of sale. GoDaddy is famous for offering you all the different things that will help you with getting your domain that you're buying from them up and running, but there's other ways to do it too. You may be selling something like a boot camp, and maybe you want to offer people ongoing coaching. Or they're going to buy a product, maybe you introduce implementation support. Or maybe there's a product that when they buy something else that's complementary. I have a client who works in the wardrobe industry. They sell clothing online, and one of the things they do is like, well, guess what would look nice with this skirt? Look at these 3 tops that are perfect with it. So think about how can you increase the volume, or what they call in the industry the penetration of a client who's already saying yes to you. Now, second way to increase cash flow is to raise your prices. And one way to do that is to offer bigger ticket items to premium prospects. So if you're offering a bigger ticket item, you're raising your prices because you're selling more of a bigger ticket element. And you may need to consider changing your audience. You may be doing business with people who are struggling to pay the prices you have now, and you're making a limiting decision that people aren't going to pay more. But it may be that you're aligned with the wrong target audience for those higher priced items. And the other thing here, we're not going to talk about this a lot here, but I want you to start exploring and evaluating inside yourself is, are you really charging enough for what you're doing in the first place? It's really easy to have the illusion that what you're doing isn't, you're not able to raise your prices because of your audience and their limitations rather than yours. Now, third, to increase cash flow, you can cut your costs. Now, this is actually a dangerous place to focus because most people will cut costs that are the wrong costs, and you actually set yourself up to be very vulnerable and very constricted. And constriction does not create expansion. It actually sets everything else up to constrict with you. So if you're cutting costs, you may be positioning yourself to actually cut the very thing that will allow you to sell more. So you have to be very careful here, and I'm going to really encourage you to use us to help you with this process. Now, if you're lowering your fixed costs that don't produce revenue, then you can actually create a better relationship between your fixed costs and the impact it has on your bottom line. So what you want to evaluate are the fixed costs or the items that are not directly tied to revenue. Or look at tying the resources that you're investing in to production results. So this requires some negotiation. You may have to change some ways that you're operating, but look at how the things you're paying for are tying to actually generating results. And what happens if you eliminate them. So that's my tip for how you want to cut costs. Again, I would highly recommend